Hey guys, welcome to the shop. Right now, I'm not in my shop, I'm in my shop at work. And I just wanted to give you a real quick sneak peek at the stuff that I do for a living. And I build stuff on a pretty big scale. So, I got some pretty neat stuff to share with you in my shop that I figure you'll be interested in. So, let's go in there and get started. Alright guys, now today is going to be a mixed bag. I've got a lot to do and this stuff really needs done. I got several things that I want to share with you and I'm going to list them off real quick for you. At least most of them. Now, see that paperwork on the desk? Or on my bench? That is the original paperwork that come with my big Cincinnati shaper. Now, how rare is it to get the original paperwork that come with your machine? A viewer contacted me and he said, I work at Cincinnati and I want the serial number off your machine and I'm going to see if I can't dig up the paperwork. Well, he did. He emailed it to me and I printed it off. And in that information is some really interesting stuff. Some stuff that I thought didn't even exist anymore. So I'm going to show you that. I'm also going to show you what's in that box there. Now, I purchased this item off of eBay. And I think that I got a really good deal on it and I'm really happy with the quality of it. And I'm going to share that with you because you may want one for your shop. Another thing that I'm going to do is tear out this big AC unit. AC heater or whatever. Now this has been in the shop ever since I've owned this place. And it worked pretty good all winter. But it's an energy hog. It's an energy hog and it's an eyesore. So I'm going to tear that out and I'm also going to tear down the shape or the grinder. I've got to send parts out for repair on it. So it's going to be a busy day. So let's get started. Alright, let's start off with this paperwork because this is pretty neat. Now, one of my viewers contacted me and he said I work at the Cincinnati company. And they're still in business. They don't make shapers much anymore, but I think that you still can order for a shaper from them, but it would probably cost you an arm and a leg. Now, the order date of this machine was 2/15/1950. Now, that was 30 years before I was born. Who keeps their paperwork that long? I'm lucky to keep my paperwork for 15 minutes. It usually ends up washed in the washing machine with my wallet and stuff. It was sold to the E.A. Kensington Company, West 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, and it shipped to Procter & Gamble. Now that's pretty neat. Procter & Gamble is a big company, so who knows what this machine done while it was there, but that's where it went, Procter & Gamble. Its destination was Ivorydale, Cincinnati, Ohio. Shipped by truck. It shows all the things that this machine come with factory and all the things that were omitted. Like they didn't want the tool lifter, they didn't want the power down feed on the head. Stuff that I wish this machine had, but obviously Procter & Gamble didn't want that stuff. So this is pretty neat. And there's lots more stuff in here, just general ordering information, the motor and stuff that they wanted on it. Stuff about the belts, Procter & Gamble. Stuff about the power requirements. All the motor specifications. This is a 7.5 horsepower motor. More motor information. People that assembled it, there are their clock numbers, you know. They had to check off on that stuff. And this is the most interesting piece for me. Now this is the actual specifications. It gives all this is ram nut and link. It gives the run out, what it's allowed and what it actually has. You know, the table, top of the table parallel with the stroke of the ram. It was allowed 7/10. This machine shipped with 5/10. And all the other specifications on all the other movements on the machine. So possibly I could go back and check all these and see exactly how much this machine's wore. Because I know as long as the operator did their part and recorded this accurately, what it had when it shipped. All the things that they checked and that they were satisfied with. Just really, really neat. So I really appreciate this information, and how odd is that? I mean, to find something like that is like a needle in a haystack, if you ask me. So I was glad to have that. Let me show you what I bought, because I think it's pretty neat, and it should be really handy in the shop and maybe in your shop. Well, here's the item that I got. Now, I just bought this off eBay, just like anybody else would, and I needed one for quite some time. Now, I had access to one of these, but I didn't own one myself, and I always want to own my own stuff. I don't like borrowing tools, so I bought my own, and it is a precision level. Now, I'm sharing this with you because I'm pretty happy with the quality of this thing. I was really actually surprised at how good it was for the money. And I only paid 68 bucks for this shipped to my door, and it come in a decent case and wasn't all beat to pieces. Now this one happens to be the 1/2 thousandth over 10 inches. They offer this same level in a 2/10 over 10 inches, but I'm glad I got the 1/2 thousandth over 10 inches because this one's sensitive enough for the majority of work that I do, and you can really chase your tail with the 2/10 version, or they even make them more accurate than that, I believe, and setting one of those up would not be so easy. But this one has a few features that are really nice, and one of them is it's got a lot of heft to it. It's not really light, it's actually pretty heavy. It's got a V ground in it, and it's relatively flat. It's got no rock in it. You know, it's a decent machined piece. It has thermal insulation on the sides to isolate your body temperature from the level, because that can drastically affect the level's readings. I can take this level out of my heated cabinet that I keep most of my tools in. I can set it on this cold plate and I can watch the bubble change in size a considerable amount. So temperature really does affect these, you know, a lot. So anytime you use one of these, you want it to be acclimated to the temperature of the room or the equipment that you're going to be working on, because it makes a difference. And they're pretty simple to set up to zero. Tom Lipton does a really good video on it, but it's really pretty easy. And all you do is somewhere on this plate, now this plate is not level, but somewhere on this plate, if I rotate this level, somewhere in that 360 degrees, I'm going to find, I'm going to find a place where the bubble falls in between the two lines. It doesn't have to be between the two lines. You can really adjust it anywhere in its scale, but for ease of reading, I find it's easy to zero the level in a spot where it's between two lines, and we're not going to try to do it here, but then I set up a fence. Now this is just a reference. I take the level after I've got it on zero, flip it 180 degrees without moving my fence, check my position, and if it varies from my first position, I've adjusted half of that amount, and I continue to flip back and forth until I get a consistent reading between that way and that way. If it's the same when you flip it, then the level is calibrated. And it should be calibrated anytime you use it, because I can calibrate this thing and come back, in a day or two, and it's off a little. So it just depends on the day that you set it up. I mean, just it settling in makes a difference, because they are that sensitive. So a pretty neat item to have add to the shop. If your machines are level, which the only machine that I have that's level right now is my lathe, but if your machines are level, it's one less variable that you have to account for. A twist in the bedways of a lathe can drastically affect the accuracy of the lathe, and you can think it's something that you're doing, but it could be the twist, especially like in a south bend or something like that. A lathe that doesn't really have a super heavy base on it, those are really bad about twisting. Really nice tool to add to the shop. I'm glad I got it, and for what I paid for it, I'm pretty happy with it. And it did come with instructions on how to zero it. It also come with a little wrench that you use to access the adjustment on the inside. The ends are just capped. And I don't know if you can see that, but in there are 2 little nuts that you can adjust to manipulate the valve. It comes with instructions that are really lackluster in my opinion. I would say that English was not the first language of the person that wrote this. It's riddled with spelling errors and stuff that doesn't make sense. It's almost as bad as my writing, and that's pretty bad. So, pretty neat item to add to the shop. I'm glad I got it. You could probably find a Starrett or something, you know, a name brand used around this price, but you know, this one's new and it's really not that bad. They offer several different ones that look exactly like this then they range in price. Like this one was 68 bucks, but I think I've seen them for like 100 bucks plus, and they were the exact same level. There's not 20 different manufacturers overseas that make the same exact level. You may get a different sticker on the side, but you're going to get the same level. And of course that's just my opinion, but from my experience that's what I've seen. So I'm glad I opted for the cheaper one. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's really a nice piece, and I'll be glad to have it in my cabinet. So there it is, guys. Alright, now I've wanted a good excuse to get this thing out of here for some time, and up until this point, I haven't. Because it worked. Well, it stopped heating, and I assume it's an element or something, but this thing's an eyesore, so it's got to go. And I'll be glad to get the space. Always one screw and she never wants to come out. I assumed that the coils burn out on this thing when I was correct. Right? Get you a shot of it. Right down there. Right there is a broken coil, and it is no longer attached to its counterpart. Well, guys, there it is. It's the next day, and I got that big heater out of here and got that poster over my big ugly unpainted spot. I want to show you around. Did you see? There is now no ductwork. I still got to fix those 2 holes in the wall, but not too bad. You know, looks a lot better I think than it did, and will give us some space. I think this space here will be a lot better suited for, you know, a lot better suited for press or something. You know, there's no reason to have a big duct system in here anyway. It didn't make any sense, and I don't know why it was here, but it was here, so I left it, and I'm glad I decided to tear that thing out. I got some grinding footage I want to show you. Basically reducing the shank of an end mill, cylindrical grinding on the little grinder. I just want to get a little time on it before I, you know, tear it down finally and send the parts off. I got the bedways on it I'm going to send off and have them ground, and then once I get them back I can accurately decide what I need to do with the saddle. So I'm going to show you that grinding footage, and then we'll sign this thing out. Here's just a common cylindrical grinding setup, and all I was doing here was reducing the shank size on this end mill. It was just a junk end mill out of my junk box, and I wasn't trying to make it any specific size. I was just trying to test surface finish and stuff like that. It was really just a learning experience for me, but it turned out pretty nice. And the shop vac did a pretty good job of getting the dust and stuff and keeping it contained at least to a small area. And I was really pretty happy with the finish. I'll show it in just a second. That motor-driven workhead is a real bonus to have. I'm so glad I got that with the machine, and I'm glad it works. Pretty pleased with the finish. Not too bad. Could use some work, but this wheel is not balanced at all, and I'm sure that contributes to a little bit of roughness that we have in it. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. Well, guys, that's been a busy week for me, man. They fly by, and I'm happy with what I got done. Removing that ductwork and getting the place organized a little better is always a bonus. I can't wait to get that little grinder sorted out, man. That's going to be neat. We can grind custom geometries on carbide inserts or just sharpen them in general. Grind custom cutters for the shaper and for the lathe. And possibly sharpen fluted end mills. That stuff takes a little skill though. And I'm not there yet, but we'll develop it just like anybody else. So I want to thank all my old subscribers and all my new ones and my patrons. I really appreciate you guys. All you guys are the channel, and I really, really appreciate it. So if you haven't, make sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking on my little guy up here and hit the bell for notifications. And as always, I'll see you next time.